I think if anything, these guys know, and anybody that wants them to come into our building, if you want to know what we're about cutting it loose. We're going to be aggressive, and we don't cower from anybody. We respect all of our opponents, but we don't fear any of them. And so if you want to come to Detroit, you're going to be gritty, and you're going to be with a bunch of guys that freaking love the game. They're going to give all their heart and soul, and we're going to cut it loose. So that's what we're about, and that's what they know.
We're going to cut it loose, he said.
I mean, look, that's nice and all. You got to win games, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's real nice. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I would play for him. I'd run through a wall for him, but that's kind of what's going to lead us into this next topic here, which is how confident are you in Dan Campbell and that he will work out? And Jeff, my understanding of Dan Campbell is he's not just the rah-rah, in-your-face coach. I actually think he's much smarter than people will give him credit for.
Definitely.
And he changed my mind on him when he was willing mid-season to cut ties with Anthony Lynn. That was, a leadership move, which I totally respected, even if it didn't work out. The fact that you're willing to make that type of decision 6 months into your coaching tenure.
Yep.
10 out of 10 for me. And not only did he make that decision, they actually got a lot better. And Ben Johnson clearly proved himself, and now he's the OC. There have been so many leadership factor, qualities, promotions, decisions that have been made by Dan Campbell. I know they don't have anything to do with winning games right now. You can point out 3 wins all you guys want, but I'm seeing it from a different lens. And it's a lens that I see with Sean McVay and with some of the other coaches around the league where they're able to really put together a good coaching staff. The players are bought in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dan isn't going to have I don't think he's going to have a hard time getting players to buy in. His next evolution, his next phase as a head coach, obviously to win games, right? But to have an identity for this football team. And maybe that's his identity. We're never going to quit, never give up. I mean, that's what you saw year 1.
Yeah.
Even though they're a 3-win football team, they had no quit in them. Okay, but having no quit doesn't win games, right? We need to take this next step. And for Dan Campbell, I'm actually really excited about this year because I'm going to get an offensive coordinator I'm very confident in. I'm going to get a head coach who I know can lead men. So I'm not going to have to worry about, does the locker room respect him? Does the locker room understand what's required of them? I think he holds a much higher standard than most coaches have in Detroit Lions history, especially the last few coaches. So, you guys want to ask me about my opinion on Dan Campbell? What are we, a little over a year now into his tenure? The theatrics before the season, before a game was played, you know what? Maybe overreacting to it, sure. I don't care at this point. Because what I've learned to see, and what I've come to understand, Jeff, is he's actually an intelligent guy. And he's the definition of a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's building a really good coaching staff. I think he's got a GM that's going to build a very good roster. And it's tough for me to see them not succeeding now. I think the only thing standing in their way is if Dan Campbell can't take that next step, which is right now he's a total leader. Everyone's bought in. Smart dude, but can he take that next step where he becomes, I don't want to say an innovative coach, but I want to say a guy that's developed, somebody that can lead a team, have a conversation with the offense and defense, have an identity, and deliver consistent winning football. That's Dan Campbell's next step. And to be honest with you guys, I've never been more confident in this guy. And every day I become more confident because of not only what I hear, but what I see really matters. And I hope you guys understand, when I say the leadership moves, I think that alone should really open up your mind a little bit to where this team is going. I really mean that. And I think, can it work with Dan? Absolutely it can. It really can. But the big thing for him is, can he take that next step? He's got the OC. He's got the defensive coordinator. He's got a great coaching staff. Former players who know how to speak to the players. He'll never lose the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take that next step and become a winning coach? Because that's how you'll build an actual culture. That's the key for Dan Campbell, Jeff.
Yeah, and as much as I'm a fan of anything, of Dan Campbell, the person, the leader, and even so far the coach, the reality is you have to win games to be a successful coach. So with that being said, I think right now we've all acknowledged this. It is the honeymoon phase of the regime. This upcoming season is important in the next step of this evaluation process and trying to see if Dan Campbell's a great coach. Right now, he's nailed the leadership side of things. He's nailed getting players to play hard for him, getting a great coaching staff around him, and holding guys accountable is another big one. So those types of things, Dan has already exceeded expectations. I think where Dan needs to step up is the wins and losses. And I think you can compare Dan. Dan can work out. He can be a successful head coach because if you look around the league, when you hear Taylor Lewan talk about a guy like Mike Vrabel, those things, I think there's similarities, but the thing that Mike Vrabel brings that I think Dan is slowly starting to learn is he brings a schematic advantage from week to week. Mike Vrabel, former player, of course, but a guy that is very high on his X's and O's and somebody that has a similar personality to Dan Campbell, but, you know, Mike Vrabel is a little more developed in terms of they won the AFC this year. So with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So I think Dan Campbell can do those types of things. I think it starts off with Dan this year, and you've already seen it, him growing last year, firing Anthony Lynn, taking over the play calling duties, the offense actually getting better with Dan calling plays, and then you had Ben Johnson, him promoting Ben Johnson. Like, there's been a whole line of events that have told me I'm confident with who we have at head coach. I just think it's important that Dan has to take that next step, and you're going to approach a division next year with or without Aaron Rodgers, and you're hoping that Dan eventually gets to that point, because I love the coaching staff around him. I love Aubrey Pleasant. I love Aaron Glenn. I love Ben Johnson. But I want Dan to get to that point where he goes into a week-to-week game and there's a schematic advantage he provides. And I think there is a time where he can get to that. And I think right now he's slowly getting to that point where he's getting better. He's getting more familiar at what he's doing. For the Detroit Lions, he's getting better at it, being a head coach. But as of right now, I think we just have to look at the facts, and the facts are all we have is 3 wins this season. So you have to build on that. You can't go out next year and win 4 games, and we could sit up here and say, man, Dan Campbell, the way he speaks, man, I love it. Because it just doesn't sound the same. You have to win games. And this first year, we knew it was going to be a lost year, but what happens next year when you're expected to win 7 to 9 games? Things change, and the honeymoon phase might come to an end if you fall short 5-4 games. Then everyone's looking at Dan Campbell like, what's going on? And as of right now, I got confidence in Dan. I think he's earned the respect of especially all Detroit Lions fans, because it was an overcorrection of who we had before Dan, and it's been great. So Dan, hopefully he can continue that success. Hopefully he can continue to build and be a better head coach, and maybe he can eventually get to those Mike Vrabel points and he can win a division. So I think the jury's still out on Dan. I don't think anybody knows if he can be a head coach or he can't, but this year is big for him. Let's see if he just steps up in all categories.
Look, if they win, let's say 6 games, I don't think anyone's complaining. And again, I always compare him to the Schwartz evolution, right? With Schwartz, what was it? I believe it was 2 wins, 6 wins, 10 wins, right? And with Campbell, if it's 3 wins, 6 wins, and then 10 or 11, well, no one's really saying anything. People are... See, in the NFL, all it really takes is 2 years, sometimes even 3 to turn it around. You can turn it around pretty quickly, especially when you're picking that high in the draft every year. And that's what the NFL is made for. It's made for parity. And I'll just reiterate it one more time, because I truly believe it. I've never been more confident in a head coach in my lifetime than I am in this moment with Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I would agree.
More than ever with Schwartz. More than ever with Caldwell. My head was underground when Patricia was here. I didn't want to show my head. That was a disaster hire. We don't need to acknowledge it. That never happened, actually. You know what? That never happened. I don't remember.
Yeah.
What happened?
Who?
Who?
I don't know.
Jim Caldwell was fired. I don't know what happened after. But we have Dan Campbell now.
We'll just plug him right
God, I can't believe... Like, look, you can hire the wrong coach, but the fact that it went that sideways, that fast, Jesus Christ. But anyways... I hope I'm communicating this correctly. Yeah, I mean this like I'm so serious. You can look at Mariucci, Marinelli, Mortingweg, doesn't matter who. Caldwell, Schwartz, Patricia. I don't think there's ever been a guy that I trust in terms of leadership qualities that's going to hold himself accountable and his football team accountable more than I think this coach can. Now, again, we're comparing Dan Campbell to a bunch of losers. So, is that saying much? Maybe not. Maybe it's not saying much. But I think if you're a Detroit Lions fans, you have to be confident. You really do. You have to be confident in this guy. I'm telling you, the leadership move to get rid of Anthony Lynn mid-season.
It's big.
And then it works out. And then you promote the kid and make him an OC. Guys, what has been behind Mike Vrabel's success? Who comes from Mike Vrabel's
People
OC
forget
tree?
Matt LaFleur was an
Who
OC.
else?
Arthur Smith.
2 head coaches now.
Yes.
Arthur Smith and Matt LaFleur, both OCs for the Tennessee Titans. It's not like Mike Vrabel was there doing it by himself. Yeah, he's the leader. He's the rah-rah guy, but he's also very competent on defense.
Right.
And I could argue Dan has that same mentality, that same quality, but maybe a little more leaned on the offense instead of defensive side.
Yeah, just because of
But now
former
he's
player.
got Ben Johnson, and I am such a believer, and I know you are too.
Yeah.
And then you have Aaron Glenn, who I think did a hell of a job given what the hell he had to work with. And clearly he can coach up talent. Look at the undrafted free agents that played for him.
And they got guys coming down the pipeline, too.
Guys, I'm telling you, this coaching staff can really get it done.
Yeah.
You know, you may not like what I said, before last season. Get over it. Get over it. You need to earn this kind of talk. You need to earn this kind of, is it complimentary talk? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be what it is.
You want to earn, the only way you get talked about in a good way is by earning the trust, by doing something.
See his vision.
And the fact that I'm seeing something, and this is something I haven't seen in Caldwell, Patricia, Schwartz, none of them. This never existed. This was never a thing. This was hire the brother-in-law as coordinator.
Yeah.
This was hire my buddy at OC. This was let a really good DC walk away, for nothing, to take the same job somewhere else. That's what the Lions have been. And how much credit you want to give to Sheila, Dan, I don't care this morning. I really don't. What I do know is I think you have a head coach that gets it. And I think he's smarter than we believed him to be originally. And again, he was so busy being a media, what's the word I'm looking for? He was such a quote machine.
Media darling.
That
yeah.
you fell in love with the idea of, he delivers quotes every week.
Yeah.
But you never got to see the football side of him up until he got rid of Anthony Lynn. I'm telling you, in that moment, changed my whole perspective, and it really changed how I looked at him, how I thought of him, and I couldn't be happier right now. I really couldn't.
And
I think they're going in the right direction.
And we talk about the leadership quality. I think the most important thing that stood out to me is when he got these guys to come to Detroit and be coaches. Aaron Glenn, obviously, and Ben Johnson, guys like that. I mean, Ben Johnson was already here, but he was with Ben previously. So those relationships, and guys respect him enough to come over here, and you have the John Dorseys of the world now a part of the organization, which is great. And even down to the coaching staff, Aubrey Pleasant, Aaron Glenn, these guys, it's great. Deuce Staley, of course. So guys flock to great leaders, and you're starting to see that with the Detroit Lions. More and more guys are starting to fall a little more in love with Dan Campbell and just him as a person, him as a leader. So hopefully the wins can get produced, but until then, I think everybody should be sold on the product they're getting to see, although the wins aren't necessarily there. I think next season, the only way you buy out completely is if it's a disaster. Other than that, like you said, if it's 6 wins and they're playing hard like they did every game this year.
What do you tell fans that don't want to get burned? They're not ready to put all their trust in a Brad Holmes or even Dan Campbell.
What gives you the right? That'd be my, what would give you the right to think this needs to be right?
Well, because it's only been 1 year, right? So they want to see another draft. They want to see another offseason.
That's fair. That's fair. If you want to see another draft or two by Brad Holmes, that's completely fair. I think people that get their expectations so high, I like to say just check yourself, because you're a Lions fan. So, like, the expectations from being a Lions fan, okay, we had Jim Caldwell, took us to the playoffs. Jim Schwartz took us to the playoffs once. But other than that, you have no real expectations. Your expectations now should be in the future to eventually win the division, eventually win a playoff game. So you're hoping this is the right regime. So until then, until I'm proven otherwise,
I'm done
I'm
hoping. And I really do believe it. And I'll tell you guys why. And it's coming from me. Like, we have to understand how monumental of a moment this is. This is coming from a guy that's very, I'm very critical, and I don't give my trust away that easily. But with Brad Holmes, he's earned that right, I think. I don't see this team having a talent issue moving forward. I don't think you're going to look at the roster and say, well, what do you want the head coach to do?
Yeah, no, you're right.
I don't think you're going to have that issue with Brad Holmes. And when I look at Dan Campbell, guys, I'm always going to go back to what happened with Anthony Lynn. I know I've said it multiple times now. But you have to watch how the team evolved throughout the season. I told you they were a 3-win team going into the season. You told me 10. I did hate Motor City Dan Campbell, by the way, and that stupid racing helmet. I won't take that back. Rumble, you know me, buddy. I thought that was so stupid. But look, I would prefer. I would think it's more wrong of me as someone that has to sit up. What do we do this 5 days a week, Jeff?
Yeah, that is right.
As somebody that has to sit up here every single day, along with Jeff and everyone else, I think it would be very ignorant of me not to change my mind, not to change my position, because then I'm just talking out of my ass every day. And I'm giving you something that's not true. And what I'm telling you about Dan Campbell is this. I think he's a leader, but I think he has more football knowledge than maybe we were led to believe early on. Especially, again, because it was all antics in the beginning. It was, having fun, talking about culture, and it really had nothing ever to do with football. And then the season started, and you really started to see, I would say around week 5 or 6, okay. There's good football decisions being made, even when they were losing games. Going 4-2 against Minnesota, even though they lost, was one of my favorite decisions, and it was kind of one of those little, spark plugs for me. It was one of those okay. Because I know no other head coach in the recent history of the Detroit Lions would have done that. They would have said, you know what, let's tie this game up. All right, go to overtime, we have the momentum. No, he goes and gets the win, technically. But, Minnesota goes down and scores, whatever. We don't need to talk about that field goal. But that aggressiveness, that willing to put yourself out there is what I think, appreciated with Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
And I think it's all come full circle. Now, yes, it's about the wins. But it's now an evolution for me. You bought in the leadership culture. Everyone's on board. Now you need to be a successful coach. How do you build a winning culture, Jeff? Winning.
You win.
You win.
You win.
It's that simple. So now it's time to win games. I'm excited. I really am. I really think this is the crew to do it. Because you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, has there ever been a better talent evaluator at GM? No. With a more proven resume? Even forget last year.
I was going to say, his resume in general.
His resume in general is much more proven than any GM you've had in the last 25, 30 years. Okay, the head coach. No head coaching experience. Okay, fine. No coordinating experience. Really bothered me. But you know what? Leadership qualities. And I'm not just talking about kumbaya. I'm talking about real man leadership qualities.
Yeah.
Hey, I hired you to be my OC. You're done after week 7, 8. We're going to put this, you're going to stay in the back. You're going to help us develop a game plan. Ben Johnson and Deuce Taylor are going to help me. And I'm calling plays moving forward. And it worked. Takes a football guy to do that, if you ask me. Maddie, we got to go to break. Top of the hour coming up. We got to talk about how confident are you in Brad Holmes moving forward. Obviously, I've given him a lot of praise, and so has Jeff. But how confident are we now that he's going to be in a position where he's going to be selecting mid-round in the coming years? He's going to have multiple draft picks. He has 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Think about that. That's 4 starters. 4 potential, I could argue, Pro Bowlers. Who knows? Hey, you made it all the way through. I'm so proud of you. Why don't you make me more proud? Like, subscribe, and watch another video.